Hey guys, I am Lana. This is from Corporate to Crystals. We're back for another video. In this video, I'm just going to do a video with some observations. This is a very hefty topic that I am still learning and growing every day in, and I'm nowhere near perfect. None of us are, but especially a white woman talking about white supremacy, okay? The irony here, I'm not missing the irony, okay? But I think that's why God has this as part of my path, because it's almost like in this weird way, and I'm not trying to take away from the systemic damage that has been done because of white supremacy. I see it so clearly. I really, really do. And it's taken me bit by bit, year by year to truly see it. And, along this journey, I have had prejudice against me for being a white woman. And that was something that really woke me up to a lot of the pain. Because I myself saw racism in in my youth. Like at a young age, I recognized when people would make racist comments or something like that. I recognized at a young age I didn't like it. And even if I was too young to feel safe enough to speak up about that, I internally knew I didn't like it and it wasn't me. And the older I got and the more in my power I got, the more I spoke on it, the more I stood up for what I believed in, and those individuals in my reality either were forced to change or were just removed, right? But it was something at a young age I just knew I was fighting against individuals in my reality because I understood that the way that they operated didn't align with who I was, just innately. It hurt me to hear some things that they would say. So then I go on with my life and I don't really think tons about, I'm ignorant. Per usual, it's embarrassing almost, but it's as a white woman who is privileged because of this, you don't recognize your privilege until you do, right? And that means you had to have situations reflect to you your own privilege and your own ignorance. And so that happened, and every time it happened, I had gratitude, and I had such gratitude for some of the people who were brought upon my path to help me grow, and they were patient with me and they know my heart. And so they were able to coach me and to be better, to be a better human being. So I have a lot of gratitude for the people that God brought in my life to help with that, because, it's this weird thing where I didn't even notice until I was in my adult years that I had a lot of friends who were white, and I wasn't picking white friends. I was just picking, if people were around me or something and they had good vibes, then we're friends or whatever. And I absolutely had friends who were not white, but at the same time, when I really think about it, predominantly from a percentage based, I guess they really were a lot of white friends. So I started reflecting on that. And over the years, it's become really clear to me that it's because of white supremacy from a systemic standpoint. And I was part of that problem without even meaning to be. It's almost not to say one is I genuinely believe I've gone through a lot of trauma, but I'm not trying to take away from other people's trauma. So please don't, I'm not trying to say I'm a victim and I'm the most victimized person on the planet or something. No, but from my experience, a lot of my trauma has been through, at the hands of people who are kind of aligned to the definition of white supremacy, which let me read. According to Wikipedia, white supremacy is the belief that white people are superior to those of other races and thus should dominate them. The belief favors the maintenance and defense of any power and privilege held by white people. Okay? So that last part I think is really important because it's talking about the systemic part of white supremacy, which we are seeing so loudly right now. And that's why this video is really important. So I'm going to reread it. The belief favors the maintenance and defense of any power and privilege held by white people. So when we think about the largest companies on the, in the world, or the largest companies in the US, or the elites, or whatever the heck we want to say, right? The government. When we think about all of these institutions and how they were built and the systems that maintain them and the people in power within them, it really all does benefit certain people and not others. And I'm very clear about the fact that it benefited me whether I knew that or not because I was privileged, right? And that breaks my friggin' heart to know, but I have to own it. And that's a huge part of this journey, is breaking out of those systems for myself because I don't believe in them. But I had to be in them to understand that I don't believe in them because I saw it. Like firsthand, I saw everything that's wrong with the systems through my own experience. And then by pulling myself out of them, it aligns more with my values. But I was in such survival mode that I didn't even realize I was maintaining the systems, like per this definition, favoring the maintenance and defense of any power and privilege held by white people. So by me even being a part of those systems, by me even being a part of those organizations or whatever, I'm helping to maintain them and defend them, which is not what I was trying to do. Like I've talked multiple times on my channel about how like I didn't give a crap about any of that. I was just trying to stockpile money so I could find safety because I had been abused in a variety of ways, typically by the hands of white people, right? And that's a bold ass statement, but it's fucking true. So white girl through a lot of abuse. And I'm talking like basically every type of abuse you can have, I have had. And again, I'm not trying to like say I'm the most victimized person on the planet. No, I'm just painting a picture. At the hands of predominantly a large percentage of people who have abused me are white. And of those white individuals, or just the people who have abused me, a very large percentage of them are men. And so for me, that's my story. And that's what I have been running away from and fighting against and like leveraging any of the resources I had in order to find safety for myself. And the only way I knew how to do that was through leveraging the system that was like presented to me so I could find resources and find safety. And it's the same story for all of us. Mine just happens to be a story through the lens of privilege, right? And that sucks in a lot of ways, but also like I see it and I hate the system just as much as other people. And so now I'm consciously aligning to, that's what this whole journey has been about, is like me pulling myself out because I hated it. Me pulling myself out because it doesn't align with my values. Me pulling myself out because even within the system, as a white woman, I was getting abused. I had bosses at a variety of organizations completely disrespect me, treat me like narcissistic abuse. Very, very terrible treatment by some white men within these systems. And then also I had some incredible leaders of whatever gender and race. So I also I saw the full spectrum within these organizations, within these institutions. So it wasn't all terrible, right? But at the same time, I saw how fucked up it is. And that's when I was like, this is just not it. Like, I may be able to stockpile money to find safety, but I've gotten to a place where that can no longer be the priority. I now have to backtrack and find happiness because the system that I was kind of told was the route for me it led me into unhappiness. It led me into selling my soul. It led me into a bunch of things that made me feel like crap and got me abused in a lot of ways and things like that. And then I met really incredible people as well. So there's always like light and dark, right? But the reason I bring this up is because I, without knowing it, was defending this system. I was maintaining and defending it simply by being a part of it. When from my perspective, I was trying to find safety and stability for myself because I had abusers and people I didn't feel safe with that I couldn't lean on or trust in like a family or whatever, right? There's some people who, no matter what happens out in the world, you're going to be fine because you have your family to come home to. Like, you have people who love and support you that you feel safe with to kind of like fight against the world. I didn't even have that. And that's not a jab at my family. Like, we all had our own trauma and different situations, right? Like, I had divorced parents and a very like estranged family kind of thing. And there were very like important reasons why those decisions were made. So I understood it, and I definitely feel like it was the right thing. But I saw firsthand like how destructive and spiritually bankrupt in a lot of ways and abusive like white people can be like within my own reality. And I wasn't viewing it as like they're white, so that must be the problem, because I don't know, that's just not how I was viewing it. I just was like, geez, people in general are like, I need to look out like for people because this is not good the way I'm being treated. So I need to stay safe. And so that trauma then put me into a position where I scanned the world looking for how can I leverage my opportunities to make the most out of those opportunities to find safety. And by doing that, I immediately went into defending and maintaining a white supremacist system without even meaning to, without even knowing, just pure ignorance, right? And privilege. And that's something that I have to own, and that sucks to know. But at the same time, like, that's why I am talking about it, because I see it and I also hate it. And I may not be oppressed by the system in the same way that some people have been, but I also want to fight against it because I do now see it, and I was part of the problem, and I didn't mean to be part of the problem, but I benefited from it. And that's kind of the part that I really want to like anchor to in this combo. There are a lot of individuals who, you know, I'm going to just speak as a white individual. I knew from a young age, like, I'm not racist. I'm not going to be racist. I see it. I don't like it. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel like me. So I had to like battle patterning to make sure that I align with that and stuck to those values and defended people who weren't even in the room against like people who I'm watching say things that I didn't approve of. And that happened both within my family as well as at work and friend groups, frankly. When you are a white individual and you're surrounded by other white individuals, some of them think they can say whatever the hell they want. And so there were multiple times at work, especially, I had, when I was managing stores, there were customers who would come in, and when they would speak to any of the employees that were not white and they would speak in a racist way, I remember working at a cell phone carrier and disconnecting a customer's entire family account because of the way they spoke to one of the reps at the locations. And that was something that like, it was a test for me. Like, do you believe in this enough to defend this employee that you care about by disconnecting this customer's line per their contract? And I was like, hell yeah, I do. Like, delete it. I don't care. And then the annoying part is that customer calls back in to customer care at this system, this large corporation, and they get their entire family account reactivated after completely disrespecting one of the reps in our stores with a very racist comment and being asked to leave the premises of our location. And me disconnecting the family account, and then they just call right back in and complain about me, and then they're back on the account. So even within my own ways and like trying to stand up for people, I still was being kind of like pushed down and disrespected for even like standing up for people. And there were a couple other situations like that where some racist comments were made and I made sure I was like the person who said something. And sometimes it put me under fire and I didn't care because I knew what right and wrong was, because I had seen it in my youth that I knew that didn't feel right. And so I had a lot of situations throughout my reality where I had to like decide if I was going to stand up for the oppressor or if I was going to be a part of the problem, right? And I haven't always been perfect, and I want to be very clear on that. But I definitely have been challenged multiple times in that regard. So here we are, and I'm watching what's going on our planet with Gaza and Sudan and Congo and Haiti and all of these locations that have human beings who need us. And I'm trying to do my part, and I'm not probably doing it perfect, but I'm doing my best. So what I did, I have 2 Instagram accounts. One is a personal account from like kind of before this journey. And, then I started a new Instagram account that like I could be my authentic self on. And I'm trying to blend those two slowly, which is a whole journey for me as well, for like being seen. But over the last few months, I've been posting very consistently on my old account and talking a lot about like Gaza and the genocides and the government and things like that. And I saw a lot of things that were really interesting. And this is not to shame any of the people who are from my old reality. I love them all for our memories that we've had, and I will always like care about them. I simply am trying to reflect things to them so that they can grow, so that they can see. And at first I thought, okay, well, maybe the media is hiding all this, and so they just need some visibility. And if they see it, then they're going to be just as like frustrated as everybody else, for lack of better wording, right? And as it just continued to go on and no one else is talking about it, I realized that a very large percentage of my followers on that account are white. And that's not something I had like ever, it's not how I didn't select people for their race. It just is like kind of how it worked, I guess. And so as that was happening, I was noticing that the amount of individuals of, let's call it like 75% of my followers were white, or white passing, I should say. So of the people who were engaging with my content about the genocides and things like that, majority of the people who were engaging with the content were either a part of the LGBTQ community or the BIPOC community. And so they had some awareness of some sort where they were speaking the same language. They were kind of like understanding what I was like trying to do by bringing awareness here. But I noticed a very large percentage, like the 75% followers that I have that are white passing, they stopped watching my videos. They stopped watching my stories. And it just made me even more angry. So I just like kept posting. And I know they weren't seeing it, but I was like making sure I was getting louder and louder, and I was making sure to get more direct and more direct. And it led me to a post that I did, I don't know, maybe a week ago. And I only had about 50 people who watched this story. But I'm going to read to you what I wrote. Observation in bold print. Majority of my followers have stopped watching my stories now. About a 60% decrease in views. Most of the individuals who have stopped watching my stories are white passing. Most of the individuals reacting to my stories are not white. Weird, right? And then hashtag white supremacy in action. So I'm getting a little bold at this point. And then my next post or story right after that was the definition of white supremacy, which I read, but I'll read it again. White supremacy is the belief that white people are superior to those of other races and thus should dominate them. The belief favors the maintenance and defense of any power and privilege held by white people. And so I posted the definition of white supremacy immediately after calling people out, essentially, and saying, hey, here are the observations. Majority of my followers, I have a 60% decrease in views of my stories because of the content that I am posting. Of the people who have stopped watching, majority of those people are white. Of the people who are engaging, majority of those people are not white. And so those are just observations, period. And from the first post with my observations to the second one, which was the definition of white supremacy, I had 5 of the 50 individuals not watch the next story. So they were annoyed or triggered or something about my post they didn't like. So they decided to stop watching my stories at that point. And all of those 5 were white passing individuals. And so it just got me thinking. And this is a big issue, right? White supremacy, it's been a big issue. This isn't anything new. And how ironic that a white girl is now talking about white supremacy as if it's this new thing. No, I'm understanding the irony here. But what I am saying is that from a systemic standpoint, first of all, white supremacy is very real. Even people who I know have good hearts, they're not understanding that they are operating out of white supremacy. They're operating out of a mindset of not my problem, so I'm not going to worry about it. Not my backyard, not my problem. I'm not going to worry about all of those people dying in other countries because it's not impacting me right now. Lana, I'm going to stop watching your stories because your stories are annoying. Where from my perspective, I'm understanding on such a deep level why I had so many white friends, because people probably didn't feel safe with me. As a white woman who was supporting these systems, defending and maintaining them without even meaning to, how could anyone not view me as a white supremacist? Or at least a part of the problem, right? So it would make sense that I had a large percentage of my followers who were white. And that sucks. That's sad. I think about how many friendships or opportunities I missed out on simply because of ignorance on my part and then judgment on other people's part. People judging me without even knowing my heart simply because they don't feel safe potentially with me because I'm defending and maintaining organizations or institutions that are part of the systemic problem of white supremacy within the United States specifically. I see it so clearly now, and so I just am so apologetic that is the way that I potentially was coming off to people, because that is 100% in my heart, not what was going on. What was going on is I was completely in survival mode, traumatized, and trying to leverage systems to find safety myself. And as that was happening, I completely see why someone would think I was trying to defend or maintain those systems of oppression. It's almost like I couldn't slow down enough myself to even recognize that I was part of the problem, right? And so I just want to be very clear on that, and take responsibility for that, but also know that that's not my heart. That's not what I was actually doing. And then to know at this stage where I'm looking at a bunch of white people, white passing, we'll say, and I'm I don't feel safe with these people. If they don't see what is going on the planet is a problem, then I don't feel safe with them. And that's like, I'm having very hard conversations with individuals in my reality because I don't feel safe to be around someone who doesn't view other human beings dying as a problem. If you're not talking about this, if you're not concerned about this, not in like a let's sit in it all day and like be as depressed as possible, or like let's be saviors and try and save people because we see what's going on, like, no, if you're not in your power trying to do something for yourself, for the planet, for humanity to better the situation, then I don't feel safe with you. And that's like, I can totally imagine that is how people have been feeling for a very long time with white people, myself included. And it breaks my heart. I'm so sorry if I ever made anyone feel as though my ignorance made it to where they didn't feel safe with me, because that is a growth opportunity I would have loved to have learned earlier so that I could like not miss out on incredible relationships earlier and like grown way sooner, you know? And it just isn't part of my path. I'm supposed to see it when I'm supposed to see it, but I'm literally sitting here seeing a bunch of white people in the United States not caring, or even not in the United States also, just, it's a huge issue in the United States for obvious reasons, but just white people in general, even in the spiritual community. It just is crazy. Like, we have a bunch of white people who are not integrating their spiritual wisdom into like real world stuff. And it makes me feel not safe to like with them. Because if you are not willing to fight for humanity, or if you're not willing to acknowledge, have empathy and acknowledgement of a genocide that's going on and the atrocities around that. Like, we just had the United States veto a ceasefire. They were the only one. Look this up if you are unaware. The United States just vetoed for the third time since all of this started in Gaza specifically. In Gaza, October 7th was the first day of the genocide starting, let's say. And not too long after that, I think a couple weeks after that, the United States was part of the veto against a ceasefire, essentially. They had another one in December where the United States vetoed a ceasefire again. And we just had for a third time where the United States was the only one. The United States was the only one to veto a ceasefire on the genocide going on in Gaza, specifically at the International Court of Justice. So the United States has a massive problem. It's like not funny. I'm like so uncomfortable about it that I laugh, but it is not funny. The United States, for them to be the only one to veto a ceasefire, and we're the one who like benefits the most systemically from resources on this planet. That imbalance makes me feel unsafe. That imbalance disgusts me. And to know that the United States is the only one who vetoed a ceasefire, first of all, why? Like, what is the benefit at this point, right? There has to be something more going on. And I'm going to let everyone else figure that out for themselves. So I'm not like leading people, whatever. At this point, what benefit is there to continuing to kill people in Gaza or Palestine in general, other than colonization? If you're not looking to take that territory entirely, why would you not call for a ceasefire? along with all the other countries who voted to call for a ceasefire. So please do your research and look at this. The United States vetoed for the third time, and they were the only one in this specific incident, or instance, I should say. Over the last week, the United States was the only country at the International Court of Justice to veto a ceasefire. Why? I don't know. But I'm telling you what, this is white supremacy. The United States is operating out of a belief that they are superior to those of other races, and should dominate them. The belief in favoring the maintenance and defense of any power and privilege held by them. This is white supremacy. So people need to wake up. And especially if you're a white person and you're not talking about this, I'm telling you right now, people are looking at you and they don't feel safe with you. And that is I can feel it. I can feel that I don't feel safe with people who are not seeing this. Because if you can't see their humanity, then how can I trust that you can see mine? How can I trust you? How can I know you're going to have my back, right? And I also want to be very clear, there's the white supremacy systemically impacts all sorts of people, right? Like I think about like some of the musicians like Kanye West and people like that. They talk a lot about how Hollywood is run by a large quantity or a large percentage of Jews. And I'm not going to comment on this because I just don't have the knowledge, right? But they basically have a lot of individuals who hint at the fact that a very large percentage of the people in power within the entertainment world are white and or Jewish. And again, I can't comment. I don't have the connections there. I don't know. But if that's true, then that's white supremacy. So of course they would all be scared to speak out on what is going on right now because they're fearing for their lives, right? And so the only way for us to break the system is for us to break this shit. Like break it. Break it. Like, and this is my own version. I don't even know, like at this point, my path is so crazy. I don't even know, but I refuse to keep supporting this shit. And I absolutely will not be a part of systems that are destroying the planet. Like, let's just call it what it is. This is so much bigger than me, the United States. This is destroying our entire planet. Capitalism and white supremacy, the systemic nature of it, the wars, which are literally, we are superior to you, so we're going to dominate you, which is literally part of the definition within white supremacy. Like, it's a very crazy white supremacy battle going on out here. And we all need to do our part to not favor maintaining and defending it. The power and privilege within it. If we are benefiting from it, myself included, right? Then we're making choices. We're making choices. Are we going to continue to defend it? Are we going to continue to favor it in order for us to not be inconvenienced? I've made my choice quite clear. And it's not comfortable. But it has to change. Like, this is not appropriate in any way. And I'm trying to be very kind as I say this. There's tons of people who are so much more educated on this than me. So please go do your research. There are some brilliant people who are so much more educated than this. I'm just some white girl who is part of the problem. Unknowingly. And I'm just trying to do better. But I'm telling you, through the years, as I've slowly but surely gotten better not perfect, but better. It has led me to a place where over the last however many years, I can very clearly see this is white supremacy. This is systemic white supremacy, and this is like something we really need to all be aware of. And if you're sitting there thinking like it doesn't impact you, and especially if you're white, you being white and people seeing that you're not participating in, like, by you being white or white passing, myself included, right? And favoring the maintenance and defense of these systems of power and privilege, then people don't feel safe with you. And that's a reality I have to own. I have to own that because of my past choices, I lost out on a lot of really incredible relationship opportunities because I unknowingly was making people feel unsafe by being a part of systems that I didn't even believe in, which is so embarrassing. I was just trying to do the same thing everyone is, which is keep myself safe and gather resources to do that, right? And understanding now how privileged of a sentence that is on like a very like alchemical way. Well, I'm making my choices and I'm trying my best to be better every day. But if you are a white individual watching this video still, and I need you to understand that as a white woman, I am looking at white individuals in my reality and not feeling safe with them based on how they're operating during a Holocaust. And I would just ask you to chew on that, I guess. Like, I don't know. I'm trying to just like be real. Like, there's so many people that you can go to get educated on this. I for sure am like not the best one, but I am a white woman who was part of the problem, unknowingly or whatever, with privilege, running from white abusers of a variety of kinds in all sorts of ways. And that survival mode mechanism that I was in led me to go straight into the systems of white supremacy. And all I saw was how I don't want to be a part of it. And I am making choices to not be a part of it and not defend it and not maintain it because of my experiences and because I genuinely, it kills me to know that I would ever make people feel unsafe because of doing something that when I was in survival mode, right? And that's just a reality I have to accept. And that's part of my journey. But I ask everybody to like just reflect on this for your own life. No matter what your background is, no matter what your skin color is, no matter what you're doing or not doing right now, our planet needs change. Especially in the United States, we're literally destroying the planet. So let's change it, you know? Please. I'm going to leave it here. All right. I love you guys. Bye.